Hello and welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew, and today we're taking a look at Horizon Forbidden West. So, what I'm doing is I've got these on my PlayStation 5, and I'm looking through the pictures, and I kind of just want to look at a few things, to let people understand, like what I'm kind of worried about with this game. And why I think that playing it on a 1440p monitor is probably going to be the best bet with the 60 frames per second mode. So, what we're looking at are the screenshots that are taken from the PlayStation 5 that are the 4K mode at 30 frames a second. So, now if you look at this what is it? It's like it's essentially a Velociraptor with Aloy on it. So, in this still picture right now, like, these visuals look freaking beautiful. They look beautiful. Plenty of detail, behind her in the rock faces. The vegetation looks pretty freaking detailed. Like, this picture here, I cannot deny. I mean, this looks beautiful. But now look at this one. As you can see, the tower behind her is really like low resolution textures on off to the the whole thing just looks kind of bad. And if you look at the birds, that are flying in front of it, they're not stable in the image at all whatsoever. Like, they look, you can see the checkerboard really bad. But if you look at Aloy, she is extremely detailed, like really highly detailed. That looks freaking amazing. The raptor behind her, he looks pretty good too. But if you look just to the right, underneath the trees, the rubble over there, it looks pretty good. But the detail in the rock faces just kind of looks a little off. For the most part, this image here looks pretty freaking good. Right here, we are in the sand on the beach with the mammoth. The background to the left of this picture looks really good. Like the rock face back through the trees, all of that looks really good. But this is a still motion. So if you look at the things that are moving, like the debris coming out from underneath the mammoth's feet, you can start to see the checkerboarding in that. If you look at the sand by Aloy's feet, like, the texture just looks really flat. Like, it almost looks blurry from in front of her all the way over to the right side, all the way over to the left side. It looks like it has no freaking texture. Now, these pictures are supposedly from the PlayStation 5. So, if you look over at the tower, the bridge off to the right side, all of that texture in that looks really low texture. Like, it's almost like it's not loaded in texture, and like kind of placeholder texture, which kind of, I don't know, like, it kind of just throws it off. Because I'm looking at this on my OLED, my 4K TV, and I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh my gosh, man, that's like right in view. And if it's gonna look like that in the final game, like, oh man, I'd much rather not see, like, I don't know, like, I'm complaining a lot about kind of things that don't matter. So now if you look at this picture, if you look in front of Aloy, like down behind her to the back, a little bit in front under her spear, you can kind of see some texture in the sand. But then it gets, as you get out from the grass, it just looks blurry again. It looks blurry. You can see like like it has no texture. Back in through there, it up through the top in the middle of the picture, the grass starts to fade out. The image starts to look a little blurry, like the ground just kind of smears out like it normally does. The two guys in front of her, they look fairly detailed for the most part, but then you come back to where, you know, the stuff, the debris, like the little rocks and stuff on the beach. I mean, that kind of just looks blurry. I mean, if you have a PlayStation 5, you can look at this yourself. Okay, so if you look at Aloy's character again, like that looks really highly detailed. Completely, like she is way more detailed than the two guys in front of her. I mean, that is clear as day. So right there you have an inconsistency of, you know, the character quality, you know, versus Aloy, the main character, versus, you know, just the other people in the map. There's probably going to be a little bit like a decent difference. You know, they're not going to necessarily be the same, but I mean, you can see like the snake, you know, the snaky pattern on her quiver for the arrows and stuff. I mean, that looks pretty good. I mean, the rock faces with all the coral reef. I meant the building side with all the coral on it. That looks pretty cool. Like, I do like that. It looks pretty detailed. I definitely want to see this game on my 4K TV, like up close. I want to see it like really in motion. All right, now this is the picture where things start to really fall apart for me. This is where things really start to fall apart. So, if you look at the structures with the trees, you know, right in front of her, the texture on that just does not look freaking that great. If you look out in the back, you know, at the bridge, any of that stuff, I mean, it kind of just starts to fall apart for me in that image. Like the distance, the quality of the stuff in the distance is really kind of toned down for me. I mean, like Aloy looks pretty fine in this image as well. Still, I mean, for the most part, it's just the texturing on like the buildings and the stuff like that. From that far away, it kind of looks a little bland to me. Like it's not necessarily. I mean, like if you look at the platform, you see the cross thing over here off to the right, about center screen, and then you look at the landing platform. That just looks pretty low resolution to me and stuff. I mean, you can kind of see the little parachute thing that she's using. You can see the checkerboard in the lines and how it's not exactly, you know, nice and straight. This image right here looks pretty decent for the most part. You have like the vegetation I mean, it doesn't look as high quality as you would think it would, especially on the little thing right behind her, the little thing that goes up like that. That vegetation just looks kind of blurry or whatever. Not necessarily blurry, but it doesn't really look like it's like high quality, you know, vegetation. And honestly, like that doesn't look that far away from her. And then, I mean, I don't necessarily know if Aloy, I mean, like, I don't think Aloy's character quality looks that great in this image. The vegetation, like right under her feet, doesn't look that detailed. The flowers look all right. The ones that are closest to the screen, that looks pretty good. You know, over to the very left or the right bottom of the screen, the leaves right there, that looks pretty freaking, I mean, those look pretty decent. The logs that are coming up out of the water, that kind of looks like it's got a textured look to it, so that looks pretty decent. The way the light is, you know, peering through the trees and stuff like that, that looks pretty cool. I mean, like this is pretty good for the most part in this image. It's just the one's right above her. I don't understand why that looks kind of the way it does. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too nitpicky. All right, now this picture right here really falls apart. If you look at the center column, the column right off, you know, kind of, you know, third way into the screen or whatever, all that vegetation, you can see that checkerboard in there so freaking bad, it's not even funny. Like it doesn't look good to my eye. It looks really, really bad. If you look at the waves down here in the water, you could see all the checkerboard in that, like so bad. I do not like that checkerboard look. I don't like it. It just falls apart. You got the birds, the pterodactyls up here in the sky. They look super checkerboardy. I that to me just doesn't look appealing whatsoever. I get a little bit, I mean, just looking at all that checkerboard in there just really makes me feel like that's going to be a really unstable looking image as you're going across all of this, because I mean clearly she's in motion. I mean the ram's feet are moving. Clearly this is in motion, and if it's that unstable in motion, I mean, wow, wow, wow. That to me just doesn't look that appealing. I hope they find a way to like really fix that. But if you look at the clouds look amazing. Like I love the way those clouds look. But when you have the unstable vegetation all over in here, with the pterodactyls being unstable, even Aloy's character model looks really unstable. You can see all the checkerboarding in that, like really bad in that freeze frame. I just really hope that this holds up pretty decently when you're actually in motion, because that's the one thing I don't like about checkerboard is when you're moving, it looks fuzzy, and it really distracts me from the image of what we're seeing. All right, so here in this image, for the most part, this looks pretty good. The depth of field looks pretty freaking good. I mean, you can really see Aloy's character. She's really highly detailed. The skin on her fingers, her face, her arms looks really like got that softish tone, which looks more natural. I really do like that. The feather on the arrow looks really good. Her hair in this image looks really good. You can see like individual strands that really look great. The peach fuzz on her face and neck, you can see that pretty decent. Like I mean, like see, there's just so many images in these images, so much information in these images that really kind of lend, like, man, this game is gonna look great, but it's gonna have issues. It's gonna have things that are gonna distract me from the gameplay. You look at this image, okay? Now this is one of those images that make me happy, like really happy. If you look at the clouds and the sun, like that looks amazing. You got the nice, fog, dust cloud, whatever, in between there. You could see mountain ranges clear out into the left, clear out to the right, all the way through in the back. The on-screen detail, like the bushes right up to the left, that looks, you can see the checkerboard in that. That doesn't really look that great. But then when you see the rock faces, the cactuses with the needles, those look really good. These rock faces look pretty dang decent. And then when you kind of look out across the ground, like you can still see the texture. I mean, the trees down in the front right here kind of fall apart a little bit. The structure in the back kind of falls apart a little bit. You can see the heavy checkerboard out into that. And then around Aloy's, around her arms, like her arms, in between her arms, you can kind of see the checkerboard, in the fabric right there falling apart, down on her gauntlets, kind of falling apart. Little bit around the legs, her hair, you can see the checkerboard like really good in her hair. It really just makes me not want to play this on a 4K TV whatsoever, like this. And then you get here to the last image, the water image. I mean, this does not look good at all. This looks extremely freaking blurry. The color just looks all over the place. The detail in the machine looks like it's just a blurry smudge. You can see the checkerboard in her hair so freaking bad, it's not even funny. Over to the right, the coral over there looks blurry. You can't really tell what's going on. All of the vegetation, everything along the bottom half of the screen and up to on the right side up to the coral just looks terrible. Like, this is the worst image I've seen of this game to date, and this is, you could see this right on your PlayStation 5. Like, you can see all of that blurriness in there. And it just, I mean, like, I get the fact that it's underwater, but the first images they showed us of this game underwater, they did not look like checkerboard hair. They didn't look like blurry freaking crocodile mech. You know, I mean, it just, this thing over here on the left side of the screen, this bent freaking light post or whatever, like, can you even see what that really is? I mean, yeah. See, this is the kind of stuff in this presentation, like in this video, or in these still images, that really make me question: is this game on the PlayStation 5 with the fidelity? If you look at the visuals, okay, you see the fidelity in these visuals. Okay, you can clearly see how much fidelity there is in this character. You can see how much fidelity there is on this beach in this image. You can see how much fidelity and growth is in this image as well. I just do not know if this is going to be the experience that we want it to be on the PlayStation 5 on a 4K TV. I mean, maybe it's just because of where they're showing this, you know, all of the area that they're showing us, you know, of the beach area and stuff. But I mean, the stuff that I've seen in motion on this game, it really does look good, but it's also been kind of toned down as well. Like, you're not getting a native image, but this right here is by far the most impressive looking image that I've seen yet. The detail, the textures of the freaking the materials, the textures of the materials in this Velociraptor is freaking amazing looking. Like, I love that softer look. It looks realistic. It looks pretty dang good. I mean, the metal in the claws doesn't necessarily look like metal, but it does have a really nice look that's really easy on the eyes. This here is like one of my most anticipated games this year. Like, I am pretty freaking excited to play this. And I just want to be able to get the best experience possible. So I'm really thinking that I'm going to need to play this on my monitor. Because on the monitor, I'm looking at it side by side. And the things that I was pointing out before look much better on the monitor than they do on my 4K TV. Like, it looks way better. The quality and the sand and everything in this image looks much better on my monitor. The checkerboard is not as high. Like, you can't really see it that much in the little parachute thing that she's using right now, like I can on my 4K TV. This image here, those plants that I was telling you about, they look so much better on the 1440p monitor. Everything looks a lot more condensed, a lot better. It looks like a higher quality image than it does on my 4K TV. It looks much better. The shadowing looks better. The lighting looks better. This image right here, I cannot see any of the checkerboarding in the background or in the water on my 1440p monitor. It looks freaking phenomenal. It looks way better. I mean, it looks all right for the, I mean, it's too distracting over here on the 4K TV. And looking at these both side by side really makes me think that this game would be so much better at native 1440p on a 1440p monitor. I mean, this image right here where the front of her, you know, like, kind of looks a little bit blurry, like the material on the monitor, everything looks perfect. Like, the background, the depth of field looks better. There's more detail in the depth of field than there is on the 4K TV. The 4K TV makes it look blurry, whereas the 1440p monitor looks like a nice, clean, solid image that delivers more of a much better color tone for the first and foremost. Does look a lot cleaner on the monitor, but then on the 4K TV, the brightness and stuff, the OLED or whatever, kind of makes it look a little better on that. This image right here, like I cannot see the checkerboard in the structure in the back on the monitor, and all of the detail in everything on this looks super freaking clean, super sharp, way better. It looks so much better on the 1440p monitor that it looks perfect. It literally looks freaking perfect on there. So good. And then the underwater thing, I mean, yeah, there's no getting around that. It still looks, it looks really awful either way you look at it. Like, it looks awful on the 4K TV. It looks awful. Well, okay. All the checkerboard in the hair is gone. I mean, at least all the checkerboard, all the fuzz, all the pixel breakup on the monitor looks a lot more dense, so it does look a little better on things like that. But the color gradient in both of these just kind of looks a little off to me. So that's basically where I'm kind of at with this, for the most part. I mean, we will go back to here and we will watch this really quick. I mean, in motion on the monitor, it looks much better than it does on the 4K TV. The 4K TV looks blurry. The monitor looks super crisp. The watercolor, everything just looks so much better playing this on the 1440p monitor as opposed to the 4K TV. Like this image here looks really good on both of them. So that's my worry about it. I mean, I don't really mean to be such a nitpicker when it comes to this game, but this is one of my most anticipated PlayStation games. I mean, this is my most anticipated PlayStation game. When it comes to what I want, like this is the most anticipated PlayStation game I have of this generation so far, man. Like, I mean, I'm looking forward to Spider-Man 2 and God of War and stuff, but this is by far that game that this was if any game on PlayStation 5 to date was a must buy a PlayStation 4, it was this one for me. That's my feelings on it. That's how I'm feeling, guys. That's why I talk about it being like 1080p and stuff like that, but to run these side by side, I'm pretty much dead set on playing this on my 1440p monitor because I just feel like I'm going to get the best possible image and everything. So, but those were the 4K 30 FPS mode that we just went through and looked at. Now, when we get to the performance mode, the 60 FPS mode, if it still retains that beauty, because I mean, I'm already telling you right now, the 4K mode is just it doesn't hold up for me on a 4K TV. It's just too checkerboard. Like the checkerboard like just completely ruins this image for me, and it's just not a good thing for me. So, and I do want to play this game at 60 frames a second. So if they can please give us a native 1440p at 60 frames a second, I would be so much happier than a checkerboarded image. I really hope we get that type of a compromise. Like I do, like 1440p at 60 frames a second on my monitor, I would be extremely happy. Whew. I bring this up now is because we're getting closer. Like we're getting closer. Like I can already feel like the anticipation and the hype and the excitement that I'm starting to feel to be able to play this game. And yeah, this is my most anticipated PlayStation game so far, and I'm really looking forward to it. So if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.